Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this event of this evening. And for you, for this morning, we are connected with the MEIS, National Museum of the Judaism and the Shoah. And this evening, we would like to present the current exhibition that we have at the museum, the temporary exhibition that is devoted and is called An Italian Journey, and is curated by Valeria Rainoldi and the historian Valeria Rainoldi and Sharon Reichel, that is the chief curator here in our museum, and is telling us the representation of two important photograph collections taken at the beginning of the last centuries, and the second decade and the third decade of the 20th century in Italy, to remember and to testimonize the Italian Jewish sites. It was a challenge produced by a young generation that felt extremely important duty of testimony the situation of the big and small communities around Italy, where the sites and the object of ceremonial art were in danger of slipping out. And through the important research of historian Rainoldi and Sharon Reichel, they elaborated an important exhibition taking all these photographs and presenting them in this interesting Italian journey. This event is made in collaboration with the organization MEIS Friends, whose president is Mr. Fiano, that we have together with us, and I give him the floor to introduce this event. Thank you so much for both the curator and Mr. Fiano heading the organization.
So good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this event of MEIS. Events that is presenting a current show, a show that will be open until June 14th. A show that has in this particular case a lot to do with not only with what MEIS is all about, but also what the Friends of MEIS group in the US is all about. In other words, promoting the knowledge and the history of Italian Jews, Italian Jewish heritage, Italian Jewish communities. In this specific case, the idea of looking and getting from the co-curator Sharon Reichel a presentation about these photos that are about 100 years old, photos of some Jewish synagogues and other locations in Italy that in some cases don't even exist anymore, is particularly relevant and particularly interesting, I guess, for us. Now, one more word about the Friends of MEIS. We are based in New York, but obviously we not just in New York. We're trying to promote the activities of MEIS in North America. And if anybody is interested in getting more information, please reach out to MEIS, to the people of MEIS, and they will give us our contacts. And as far as the show is concerned, as I mentioned, the relevance of these photos, the fact that the co-curator is with us and will explain and will show what we see, it's quite unique. So it is the past of Jewish communities in Italy based on two historical photography collections, the past and to some extent the present. So thank you very much, Sharon. That's your time now. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea, and to Amedeo also. And thank you to everyone who decided to join us today. I will leave, you won't see me, but you will see a presentation, because I think this will be the most interesting part. So just a second, and I will show you my screen. Okay. So as you can see here is our current exhibition. It's called A Journey Through Italy, Viaggio in Italia. And this is an exhibition that we decided to do through two collections, two photographic collections, as was already said. And these two photographic collections are actually one is from a Hungarian collector, Ernő Munkácsi, and the other one is, I will say it in Italian, F.A.C.E. It's a fund that right now is collected in Rome by the Fondazione Beni Culturali Ebraici in Italia. So why two different collections were put together? Because they work and they show images from almost the same period of time, and they focus on the rich and interesting Jewish heritage of Italy. Again, what is interesting and what already Amedeo introduced as a concept is that both these two collections were made by people who strongly believed that Jewish heritage was something important to show, something important to collect, something important to remember also, and to leave to the next generations. Some numbers, why not? The Italian collection, the F.A.C.E. Fund, is made by 450 original photographs. So quite a lot. From those 550 photographs, some of them are of Italian Jewish heritage. There are also very interesting pictures and photographs that show us other parts of the Italian Jewish history, like the Mortara case or pictures from Libya. What we did in this exhibition, we focused on Jewish Italian heritage. On the other side, we have the composition of the Munkácsi Fund, and it's 95 photographs of Italy, 7 from Ancona, 8 from Ferrara, 1 from Florence, Livorno, Padua, Rome, Rovigo, Siena, Venice, and the Venice Lido. And all of these were collected by Ernő Munkácsi. Why and how it came to be, it is also a very interesting story that we speak about and we present at this exhibition. Ernő Munkácsi was born in 1896 in Hungary, and he went on and studied Jewry and then worked with the Jewish community in Budapest. But he was also very interested in Jewish heritage, and mainly in Italian Jewish heritage. So he visited Italy many times, mostly during the 20s until the 40s. And while doing so, he was collecting pictures and documenting his travels. We have some books from him, one on the Jews of Naples, one of the Jews of Rome, another one that is a collection of essays. And some of these essays actually talk to us about Venice and Ferrara also. What we know that he was in touch with many scholars in Italy. One of those is Silvio Magrini, and he was the president of the Jewish community in Ferrara. Silvio Magrini wrote a history of the Jewish community of Ferrara that we have today thanks to his nephew. And he wrote also some excerpts, some essays on the Jewish printing books in Ferrara. And that's how this exchange with the Ernő Munkácsi came to be. And Munkácsi also exchanged letters with Alfredo Toaf. Alfredo Toaf was the rabbi in Livorno, Leghorn, but also he was not only a rabbi, but he was also the founder of the Jewish Museum in Livorno. So again, there's these names and peoples that connect with each other, and these are the same names that we actually see collecting and working towards this archive, the Italian archive of F.A.C.E. So it was just natural that these two collections should continue to dialogue, and we show them together in our exhibition. I also I have here a phrase of Ernő Munkácsi, and he wrote in Konivek Escovec in 1944 that the history of the Jews of Venice and Ferrara does not only represent the history, life, and struggles of two Italian states, but of European, indeed universal Judaism. Ernő Munkácsi was very set on the idea that Jewish heritage has to be studied, that Jewish heritage has to be collected, defended, and given to those who will come next. And he also believed that through Jewish heritage, we could maintain the history of Judaism, but also the identity of the Jews. So this is part of his research, and this is how all these beautiful images still resonate today. And one of these very interesting images, because we're here to see, not only to hear, this comes from the collection of Ernő Munkácsi, and this is actually the synagogue, the Italian synagogue in Ferrara. Later, in a few minutes, I will show you a video where we can see all these images and all the all the synagogues of Ferrara. This one was the Italian synagogue. What you see here in the image, you won't see it if you come to Ferrara. Unfortunately, you won't see it coming to Ferrara today. That's because during the war and even before the war, the synagogues were destroyed, partly by the fascists and then later by the Nazi. And what you would see today coming to Ferrara is this very same room, but with only part of this beautiful wooden arch. Some parts of this synagogue are held today in the Nahon Museum in Jerusalem. So what is very interesting about this picture is that they show us the whole picture, but and today we can only reconstruct where these fragments are. Not only that, but and today you will see part of the Zaron Kodesh, so the ark, the wooden ark, and you will only see these doors, but not the complete Torah ark. And sorry, I was mistaken. The other one, sorry, was the Spanish synagogue. This happens when we do this thing at the end of the day. So this is actually the Italian synagogue. And the Italian synagogue, again, part of it is at the Nahon Museum, and part of it stayed in Ferrara. And what is, again, very interesting is that we have these pictures, but not all of them are in the F.A.C.E archive. All the synagogues are actually in Munkácsi archive. And I will show you, and I will be the one to guide you through this video. We dedicated a short video to Ferrara, not only to that, but to other towns too. And Ferrara and the synagogue, the Spanish synagogue, that's how it was at the beginning. It was open when the Spanish Jews came to Ferrara. And ceased to be in 1941. As you can see, it was very rich, it was magnificent. Marble was also there, but that's because the Spanish community was very important. And you see what happened after the fascists entered the synagogue. They destroyed the synagogue, and what was left was almost nothing. And today, and now we will see today, you cannot enter and you cannot visit the synagogue. Part of it are actually in Livorno and are part of a synagogue that is called Lampronti Synagogue. This one is that we're going to see, that's the Italian one, and that's how it was yesterday. So that's the oldest synagogue in Ferrara. And this is what happened after the fascist devastation in 1944 and 1945. You see, it's completely stripped down from all the beautiful arc and all the beautiful wooden details. And today, luckily, it's not used as a synagogue, but luckily it's still used. And that's the space where the community does all his events. And then, why not? We have another synagogue in Ferrara. That's the German synagogue. It was used from 1603 until 1941. Unfortunately, this one was also devastated during the fascist regime. And this is the wooden ark. Here you see the devastation. And this was also all a huge work that we did, combining all the images that we still have of these times. And here you see it after the war, when the community started to come to life again. And today, this is the space that it still uses as a synagogue. And you see, this is very important because this space is still used and it survived the war. With this one, and then I will tell you something more about it. There's a small synagogue that is called Oratorio Fanese. This is a space that opened during the 17th century, raided in 1941 by the fascists. You see again the devastation. That's another synagogue that today is used by the Jewish community, restored. So you see the beautiful part of the Torah Ark. And what is interesting is that when they restored it, they found, and here I will stop it, they found the women's gallery in what was used until then as the office of the rabbi. So today, for the lucky ones who are able to visit the Jewish community in Ferrara, and the building where 3 synagogues are contained, the Italian, the German, and the Fanese synagogue, you could visit the Fanese and the German temple. This image is an image from a very different type of synagogue. Maybe some of you will recognize it. I decided to go from Ferrara to Livorno, and this was the Great Synagogue of Livorno. For those who doesn't know the story of this great synagogue, it's again linked to the migration of the Sephardi and Levantine Jews from Portugal and Spain. After 1492, when unfortunately the Jews from Spain and later on the Jews from Portugal had to emigrate from, were expelled from Spain, They mostly arrived all over Europe, but mostly also in Italy. In Ferrara was one of the places that was open to their arrival, but Livorno, of course, was one of the most important. And in Livorno, they could be themselves. They could be fully Jews. And they could have this amazing synagogue. And this synagogue, we can only reconstruct it through images, through pictures, and that's the testimony to what was the splendor of this synagogue. Why I'm talking in the past? Because unfortunately in 1944, during the Second World War, the synagogue was destroyed. Now, this is one image, but here you can see again, that's from another point of view, and you can see the magnificence of this synagogue. You can see there was marble in it, and a great Torah ark. And here we have another image actually from the life of the Jewish community of Livorno. If you look at the picture, you can also see an image of a work of art, and that's depicting again the great synagogue of Livorno. And what do we see in this picture? We also see people. And that's again what is so interesting about these two collections, because we see places, but we also manage to see people. And this is a picture that was sent by Alfredo Toaf to Ernő Munkácsi. And this is the Talmud Torah of Livorno during the 30s. So not only preserving Jewish heritage as places, but also preserving Jewish heritage as people. And here again, I will show you a reconstruction of what I was talking about from Livorno. This is some images from the old synagogue, the great synagogue of Livorno. This was the facade. It was, they started to build it in 1604. And again, this is the Great Hall. You can see the women gallery, the bima, and you can recognize the difference between what was the numbers in Livorno from the synagogues that we saw from Ferrara. Again, in 1944, here you see the devastation. It was not made on purpose. This was done during the war. Livorno was one of the great harbors in Italy. And this was what was left during the 50s. And you see only the portal was left. And then the Jewish community decided to rebuild a new synagogue. I won't say that much on this new synagogue. What is interesting, it was made in 1962, and there was a huge debate in Italy of what was the direction. Will they save the old synagogue, or would they do a new one? And it was decided that in order to continue not only with the history, but also with the life of the Jewish community, they decided they wanted a new building. And a new building was made by a Jewish architect, Angelo Di Castro. And again, it was inaugurated in 1962. Inside this synagogue, sorry, let me start again. Inside this synagogue, there are some residues from the old one. And in the basement, there's the Oratorio Lampronti, the one that holds some of the remnants of the Spanish temple, the Ferrara Spanish temple. And here I will stop and continue. And that's the segue, because in this exhibition, what I said is that we touch upon a journey through Italy. We decided to collect and to show some of the places, the Jewish places in Italy. And one of those, of course, is Rome. But what we decided to do with Rome is to show to the public some pictures of a Rome that is no longer there. So for those who know, this is an image that speaks. But for those who visited only today and never saw the pictures, this is something that you won't see. If you will visit Rome today, and if you will go to the Jewish area, you won't see anything like this, or anything that looks strictly and completely like this. This is an image from the Rome that was before the beginning of the 19th century, before the new regulation of the city of Rome, and before the old ghetto was completely remade and rebuilt. So this is the piazza that is called of the Cinque Scole, and you can see this fountain. And you will, if you will go today to Rome, you will still find this fountain, but not in the very same place that it was. And this is an image that is found in the archive of the F.A.C.E fund. It's from the 1800. So it's quite touching to see this everyday life in the ghetto. And this one is an image that maybe some of you saw, but probably you never saw it like this. This one is taken from the collection of Ernő Munkácsi. There's also a copy in the F.A.C.E collection, but it's cut, and you can't see part of this scene. So while looking through these two archives, we even discovered that this picture had a different story, and it had some more people to show and stories to tell. If today you go to the Jewish area, you can still see these sites. And actually, where Osteria and Cucina, you can see it, it's written there. There's a sign that it is written Osteria and Cucina. And today, if you will go there, you will still have the possibility to eat in a restaurant of Jewish and Roman Jewish cuisine. So again, the idea was not only to reconstruct Jewish heritage, but also to reconstruct a Jewish life. In some places, this Jewish life, it's still there. Rome is one of those, and Venice, of course, and Turin. In other places, it's completely lost, but not forgotten. And I will continue showing this one. Maybe some of you will know where we are. This one is actually Venice. And again, this is an image that comes from the collection of Ernő Munkácsi. We are in the ghetto, and we are looking at one of the synagogues. In front of us, that's the facade of the Spanish synagogue. But what is interesting in this picture, I think, that's what interests me. I hope that you will share the same interest, is that on the wall, you can see written Viva Purim. And again, this is an image from the 1920s, and it shows that there was still an amazing and vibrant Jewish life in the area that was, because in the 1920s, the ghetto was no longer there, or the institution of the ghetto was no longer there, but the space was and still is called the ghetto. And you can see this Viva Purim, a trace, a tangible trace of the Jewish life. And with this one, with a tangible trace of the Jewish life, that's my last picture. Then if you want more, usually we say you have to come to visit the exhibition. We'll see. There's also more images in the catalog, and we'll see if we have more time. But this one is a very special picture. That's the picture that we decided to choose for our posters. And you see that's the square of the ghetto. And there are children looking at us. Of course, they were looking at who took the photograph, but still they're looking at us, and it's children playing in Venice, where maybe today we think about Venice as a place of tourism, but if you have the possibility and you are lucky to know people who live in Venice, they will show you a different side of it. And it's a city who lives, a city who is also lived by, and these children are there to testimony that there was an everyday life in Venice, as there luckily still is. But this image for me, and also for Valeria, was also why it's a manifestation of why we do these things. Because we know that this picture was taken during, again, the 20s, the 30s. A Jewish community was there. There were no signs of what will happen. And we know what happened. It was the Holocaust. And the idea of preserving these histories and the histories of these children and the history of the Jewish heritage, and to continue this story until today, we thought that this was the best way of continuing the Italian Jewish history through the eyes of these photographs, but also through the eyes of these children. And that's it. Yep.
Thank you so much, Sharon. We have one question from Francesca Bocconcino, and it's about Ferrara. Did the fascists destroy the Torah scroll, or was it saved?
So this is a this is not a question for this exhibition, but because we didn't touch on what happened to the Torah scrolls, but we know that they were actually taken to the central square of the city. I cannot show you the map of Ferrara, so you have to reconstruct it with me ideally. What you have to know is that the synagogues that we saw, most of them are on a street that is called Via Mazzini. From Via Mazzini, if you walk, it's no more than a 2-minute walk, and you arrive to the central square of the city. And today this square is called Piazza Trento Trieste. So the fascists took the scrolls, and part of them were actually destroyed. And they did, unfortunately, they managed to light up a fire and it was lit up with some of the Torah scrolls and also books from the Jewish community. Some other were luckily saved. But again, unfortunately, this is a story that we are used to recognize. It happened in other places in Italy too, and of course it happens all over Italy. I would like to tell you more, but I think this is a story for for another time.
Thank you so much. We have another question by Patricia Momigliano.
Yeah.
About the Jewish community of Livorno. How big was the Jewish community of Livorno, and when the big synagogue was built?
Yes, so the synagogue, if you were talking about the big one, so the one that we saw, the Great Synagogue in Livorno, it was opened in 1604, and mostly, let's say that during the 1600 there were almost 1,250 people. That again, we have to think about it how it was in the past. So 1,250 people, it's a lot. It's a community that it's huge. And you also have to think that this was a new community, because in Livorno, people started to come after 1593, when the Duke of Livorno, Ferdinando de' Medici, extended laws that were called Livornine, the laws of Livorno. And in those laws, he wrote down that the Jews could profess their religion openly. And also they didn't have to live in a ghetto. So this is why Livorno became so interesting and so important for this new migration. Is it possible to see pictures? I'm sorry, Rachel, I'm doing your work as always.
You're welcome, Sharon.
I'm sorry. We are used to multitask, so and we try to help each other. So I see another question on Livorno, so I will I will reply. If it's possible to see the picture of pieces of the old synagogue of Livorno that are inside the new and the oratorio from the Spanish synagogue of Ferrara. So actually, there's a very interesting website, and I won't show it right now, but you have to believe me, and that's like homework. In your spare time, go and visit it. There's a it's called Jewish Heritage, and again, it's a project by the Fondazione per i Beni Culturali Ebraici in Italia. If I will have the time, I will look for the link and drop it in the chat. But you can see many pictures of how the Jewish communities are today, the synagogues, cemeteries, all the Jewish heritage. So in there, you can see pictures from the current situation in Livorno. And there's also a picture of the Oratorio Lampronti, when you can see part of the Spanish synagogue of Ferrara. It's only part, so you will hopefully you will recognize the marble from the pictures that I showed you. Again, it's something that it's an exercise in recognizing those places from the pictures of how it was and how it is right now. The space is a little bit different. In Livorno today, the space is smaller, so they adapted this synagogue from Ferrara to a smaller place in Livorno. And that's the other question that I saw. I don't know if Rachel, I lost something, maybe?
No. It was the last question. The website was Visit Jewish Italy.
Yes.
Okay, so
Do you want me to?
I'm gonna put it on chat. So I think we are done. There are no more questions.
I'll ask a question.
Okay.
Sharon,
Why
you
not?
have a photo. I don't know if you can show it, of Rovigo and what was the ghetto in Rovigo. It is in the show. I don't know if you have it here.
Yes.
Because I would like you to spend a few words explaining, because it's a different situation. It's a community that is no longer a community. There is not a Jewish community in Rovigo. It would be interesting if you could share it.
If you give me a sec, I will just look into our. Yes, actually, while I'm searching for the image, I will tell you that yes, we have other stories that we told, and Rovigo is one of these stories of communities that are no longer there. Some of those are no longer there because they were destroyed. Some because they dwindled in numbers. So there's a very peculiar story of a place that is called Bozzolo or Bozzolo, and other very, very small communities that after the emancipation, so after 1848 and after the unification of Italy, ceased to be. That's because there were no longer ghettos and the Jews could live wherever they wanted. And of course, this meant that with the new movement of urbanization and people moved to the big cities. And this meant for these small Jewish communities, this meant the end of their life. But it doesn't mean that their Jewish life or Jewish heritage life ended. Many of these places are still open today, and you can visit those. In just a second, we're almost there with Rovigo. I have two pictures from Rovigo actually, and I will show you my screen. Just a second. Rovigo. Did this is sorry. But this is the Rovigo after. You wanted to start with the Rovigo before?
No, it's up to you. I just saw that image over what used to be the ghetto, and I felt it was quite interesting. So
okay. So you don't want the synagogue. So okay.
Whatever you have, I'm not
I will show
specifically.
you this picture, and this picture I will say something, and then I will go and look into the while I look.
I'm gonna search the other picture.
Teamwork makes the dream work. So while we wait for the ghetto, the image that Andrea talked about, this actually was the synagogue in Rovigo. That's the second synagogue. So if you can see, it's a mismatch, right? If you look at it, the arch, it's not that fitting for the space, and that's because that's the new synagogue. But with the old arch, the Torah ark, they took the ark from the old synagogue that was part of the old ghetto and that was destroyed, and they put it in the new synagogue that came after this emancipation. So actually, when we talk about the emancipation, that changed many things for the Jews in Italy. It changed a lot also in their synagogues, because let's say in places like Turin, today there's a huge synagogue, and it was made after the emancipation. In Florence, that's the same. It's the same story. There was a synagogue in the ghetto. The ghetto was completely destroyed, and then and now we have a magnificent and monumental synagogue that was built after the emancipation, when the Jews had the same rights as the other citizens, and that meant that their places of worship could be recognizable. and could be like any other place of worship, like Catholic churches. This is why we have these monumental synagogues in Italy, in Florence, in Rome, in Turin, in Vercelli, in many other places. One of those was Rovigo. Rachel, do you have the picture? Rachel? we tried, but okay, so if she doesn't have that picture.
This is the picture of Rovigo, right?
Yes.
Did you see it? Okay.
So I couldn't.
Yeah,
Wait, but...
I'm sharing the screen with the picture of
yes,
Rovigo.
that's the one. So Andrea, do you want me to say something about it, or?
If you can, please. Thank you.
Okay. So again, this is a series of pictures that we decided to highlight. One of those is from Rovigo. This one is from Rovigo, and is I call it a series of pictures because there's also from Rome and from Verona, and these images show us the demolitions. I say destroyed, but actually it was not done against the Jews. It was a demolition of the old ghetto. Ghettos were most of the times places that were not nice to live in. And when the new cities and the new architectures, urban spaces of the cities were thought, and the Jewish ghettos were the ones also who were demolished. This happened in Rovigo. You can see all these people looking around. That's where part of the buildings that were part of the ghetto were. And the image is from the 1930s. That's when these old buildings were demolished. We have other images, not in the exhibition, but we have them in the F.A.C.E fund. And you see it's quite, it's also nice because the people are staring at us. And it was one of the most interesting activities that were going on, because we don't only see the workers, but we also see those children looking at looking at the builders. And this is what happens also today. There's a joke in Italy that all people look at constructions. At the time, it was also children looking at constructions. So that story, it's one of the story that is told with Rome and with Verona. And I hope it was it was the answer that you were.
Thank you very much.
But also, not because I have to, but you know, if you want to, we did a catalog of the exhibition, and of course there's an Italian part, but there's also an English part with all the essays, and we have more. So maybe some of the curiosities that Rose can find an answer in this catalog. And there's also all these beautiful pictures that I don't think that were all printed in the same book before our exhibition. So I think it's quite interesting. And if you're interested in Jewish heritage, I think it's a book for your library.
Okay, thank you so much. I don't know, Andrea, if you want to add something.
No, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and those who can should visit the show as long as it is open. And that's it. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you so much. The next online meeting will be on May 14 with the last event of the series Jewish Italy around the world. And we will present the Jewish quarter of Amsterdam. So see you on May 14. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you so much, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you.